This is the Diatone Roma F6. I use this frame for a low budget DJI build that I can use as a mid-range efficient cruiser. I didn't use the DJI O3 air unit in this build because I was doing it on the cheap, but I contacted Diatone and asked them if the O3 air unit will fit in this frame, and they sent me some STL files. So this frame is ready for the DJI O3 air unit, but you would have to print up the camera mount and the air unit mount by yourself if you have a 3D printer or get someone to print it for you. Now, if you can believe it, I was able to put together this digital build for about 360 bucks. I know that sounds insane because that's about what a lot of analog bind and flies cost, but I was able to do it by hitting some of the best FPV sales and just filling up my parts drawer and then putting the build together from parts I already have. I'm using the iFlight Xing ePro 2208 1800 kV motors, which I got on sale for like $8 each. A little more on motor choice later. I'm using the Diatone F722 Mk DJI stack with the 55 amp ESC. Got that for $70 on sale. I picked up this Caddx Vista with a polar camera from Cyclone FPV for $120 on sale. It did come with a 12 centimeter long camera cable, which was not enough. So I did have to add a longer camera cable, add in another $8 or $10. The other components on this build include TBS Crossfire with a Mortal T antenna, mini GPS from Race Day Quads, long Albatross antenna from iFlight, and a lost model beeper from Vifly. The F6 is a true X frame, which means it has excellent flight characteristics, but you might see your props in view of the GoPro footage. The arms are 6 millimeters thick, the bottom plate's 3.5 millimeters, the top plate is 2.5 millimeters. As far as getting props in view of your GoPro footage, I've experimented with this, and what I've found is that you can get some excellent GoPro footage with this quad without props in view, but it depends on your camera settings. I usually use Real Steady with my GoPro 11 or my GoPro Bones, and since Real Steady cuts off the top and the bottom during the stabilization, at least assuming you're going to export it to 16:9, the props are not an issue at all because the GoPro sits pretty high and you will get props in view at the very bottom of the frame, but like I said, after stabilization, as long as you're exporting to 16:9, you won't see any props in view. The issue comes into play if you're not going to use Real Steady or gyro flow, then you might see props in view. I found that using the GoPro 11, that 8:6 aspect ratio is so wide that you'll always see the props, no matter how aggressive your camera angle is. But when I film in 4:3, if you have a very aggressive camera angle, like I'm just guessing like 30 degrees or thereabouts, you don't really see the props. They're at the very bottom and you don't usually see it. But if you have a less aggressive camera angle, let's say something like 20%, you will see the props in 4:3 footage. But again, if you film in 16:9 or if you export in 16:9, the props are not an issue because the bottom of the frame is cut off, and so you'll never see it. So even though the Diatone Roma F6 is a true X frame with excellent flight characteristics, it can be a very capable filming platform. All Diatone Roma frames come with excellent quality hardware, some molded plastic accessories, and they give you some TPU 3D printed parts, like a mount for the DJI Air unit if you're going to use that, 2 different GPS holders, which one does not have an antenna holder, one does, which is the one that I used. Each little bag tells you exactly what you've got in there and what it's for, and the instructions are really easy to follow, very detailed and very easy to follow, which I really appreciate after building up my Gep RC Mark V frame, which I love. This is an awesome frame and I can't wait to finish up this build and get it in the air. But the Gep RC Mark V comes with like basically no instructions, just a blown up view. And these arms, the front and back arms, are almost identical, but not quite. They're slightly different, and there's nothing in the instructions to indicate how you're supposed to put it together. I really appreciate how well Diatone lays everything out. It's very simple, very easy to follow. So props to Diatone for giving us some actual instructions. All the Roma frames have nice long body sections, which means it's easier to plan your build and to fit all your components in, and it also gives you loads of flexibility for installing batteries. I really like these molded plastic parts. They give it a little bit of color, and I'm surprised how much I like these this stack mount right here. I didn't think I was going to care about that, but I find I really like it. It clips right onto the standoffs, so it'll open like a door when you need to connect to USB. USB's on the other side, but when you need to connect to Betaflight or something, but it gives you something to grab onto, because I naturally grab my quads right here, and with some quads like this, my T-Motor, this is an FT5, I think, freestyle quad. When I grab it in the middle, I always want to grab it right here. That's right where my motor wires are soldered to my ESC. So I end up grabbing it right there, and it's super durable. Nothing's happened. But I actually really like this guard right here because it just gives me something solid to grab onto. The frame kit comes with these decorative fins, which I don't know what you call those. Body enclosure fins or something. They look pretty cool. They add a little bit of color and flair, but they're kind of flimsy and they're a pain to install when you take the top plate on and off. So I just left them off. It also allows me a little bit of space to get my thumb in there. My lost model alarm has an independent battery, so when you disconnect the drone battery, it needs to be turned off and you need to have easy access. They also give you this cool little molded plastic part that will hold your battery lead. You install this onto one of the standoffs, and it has a straight runner right there that goes next to the top plate, and it allows you to run your battery lead right through there. That's kind of cool and kind of innovative. I actually really liked it, but I ended up not using it, and the reason is running the battery lead out the back like this gives me ultimate flexibility to use the wide variety of shapes and sizes of lipos that I already own. I have some huge 6S batteries that I want to use with this quad, and they have really long leads, and it worked better for me to keep the battery lead coming out the back, so that's what I did. Here's a few minor details I didn't like about this frame. First of all, I already mentioned that those front sidewalls are kind of flimsy and totally unnecessary, so I didn't use them. Another thing is that I picked up the Diatone M22 GPS assuming that naturally it will fit into these GPS holders, right? Well, kind of. Even though you get two different TPO GPS mounts, this one right here, which comes with an antenna mount, which is the one that I used, will not fit the Diatone GPS unit. Hey you guys, I have to pause the video here for a quick clarification. Since Diatone includes two GPS/antenna mounts in the box, they've designed one of them for their M22 GPS and the other for their M8 GPS. I didn't realize that when I was doing my build, and that's why my M22 GPS unit would not fit in the mount that I used for my build. It will fit into this TPU mount, the one without the antenna holder. Another minor nitpick is that these battery straps, they actually kind of suck. They look nice, but they're made of some sort of vinyl material, and the Velcro itself wears out. I've used these on several Diatone quads, and every single time, after a certain number of flights, whether it's 10, 20, 30, the Velcro starts to get loose, you have to replace them. So battery straps kind of suck. I'm really happy with the way this build came out. It's super clean, quiet, and efficient. As far as motors, I went with the 2208 1800 kV motors from iFlight, in part because I got a screaming deal and I got these motors for like $8. But before I used them, I did calculate the stator volume to make sure that they were going to be appropriate and they were going to have enough torque to spin these 6-inch props. And a 2208 motor actually has more volume than the 2506 motor, which is what I usually think of for 6-inch. And significantly more volume than the 2306.5 motors that Diatone ships their F6 bind and fly. So the 2208s have more than enough torque for these 6-inch props, although I did use a motor output limit at 86% to give me an equivalent KV of about 1550, which is what I want for an efficient cruiser. This build is more than capable of freestyle, but that's not what I built it for. I'm more interested in an efficient filming platform, and that's exactly what I got here. I routed my battery lead over the top of the Vista using the receiver mounting plate that they give you. It's basically a piece of clear plastic with some holes for zip ties with either 20 by 20 or 30 by 30 mounting holes. I inserted some rubber spacers, which lifts it up and gives some breathing room between the Vista and the battery lead or my crossfire receiver, just to make sure they don't heat up too much. I think that solution is actually super clean, and I really like how I don't have any wires exposed. They're all safe and tucked away. Then I just added a zip tie to my battery lead to make sure that as I pull on the battery lead and in case the battery gets ejected, it's not going to strain the ESC. I mounted my antenna by using the plastic mount that comes with the Vista. That bolts right onto the TPU mount. I used some washers to make sure it doesn't rip through the mount. And since the antenna was friction fitted, I didn't like how it was a little bit loose. Now that has the advantage of allowing you to pull the antenna out if you have enough play in your wire to stick it into a backpack or something, but I don't like having it loose like that. So what I did is I wrapped several turns of electrical tape around both the antenna and the plastic mount to give it something sticky to grip onto, and then I used a couple zip ties and cinched them down on top of that electrical tape, and it's super, super strong. I could literally pick up the quad by this antenna and it's not going anywhere. Something I do on my builds is I zip tie the battery strap to the top plate. I cut out a space in the battery pad to allow the zip tie to sit on the top plate, and that way the battery doesn't interfere with it when it sits down there. But that prevents the battery strap from rubbing on the flight controller and possibly any soldering joints you have there as you fit the battery and cinch it down. And as long as you leave enough space on this side, just about any size of battery that I put is real easy to cinch down quickly and efficiently. What's nice about having so much space on this frame is I was able to mount my lost model alarm buzzer up here in front. There's plenty of space for it, and I used some double-sided tape with a zip tie. It's held on nice and securely, and when I need to turn it on and off, it's no problem to reach in there and access the button. Overall, I think the Diatone F6 is a great frame. It's got lots of space, which makes it really easy to build up. I really like that Diatone continues to support this frame and will give you the STL files if you want to install a DJI O3 Air unit. And I'm really happy with the way this build came out. It's clean, quiet, and efficient, which is just what I was going for. All right, you guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.